All right, it's the moment of truth. The final total is today. Hello, good evening. It is 9 p.m. on a Monday, and in this video, I'm gonna take you behind the scenes on how I prep for a really big event. So next Sunday, I'm gonna be vending at this really huge event. This spring, their estimate is 38,000 people. There's gonna be like 300 other vendors. It's supposed to be one of the biggest events in my local area. Last fall when I did this event, unfortunately, the weather just kind of got in the way. I prepped as much as I possibly could in the commercial kitchen, but with the rain, there was just honestly not much of a turnout compared to what they had estimated. So I basically lost like a ton of money at that event. But this year, I'm thinking it can't rain again. I really want to conquer this event and use everything I learned from the last time in fall to hopefully make the event this time in the spring a really big success. So that's why I am doing it again, and that's why I also want to take you along with me. This week and next week, I have a pretty packed schedule. This weekend is actually Mother's Day, so I'm not gonna be around, so I'm front loading a bunch of tasks that I need to do like earlier on this week. And then as soon as I get back, I'm gonna do like a ton of baking as well. My strategy for this year is number one, just to do all the baking at home. That way, hopefully I don't have as many costs in terms of the rent for the commercial kitchen, which of course means it's not as easy to bake in large volumes, but I'll just see how I manage with that. And my task for tonight is actually to design the tent banner. One takeaway I have from my tent setup from last year is that I really do feel like my tent didn't really have much of a presence, especially from afar. You know, when you're in front of my tent, you can see my table runner banner, but then if you're like 1 block away and, you know, looking in this direction, you wouldn't even think I'm selling anything at my tent because there's just no branding that can be seen from a side angle or further away. So this time I'm going to order a tent banner. Hopefully it'll come in time, but I'm thinking that's gonna help give my tent a lot more presence at the event and hopefully attract more customers to come up to my table. So let me show you what I have so far. This is currently my table runner banner. I'm thinking for my tent banner, I wanna get this one. From what I've seen, this is like the most economical option, and it is from the same vendor that I got my table runner for, so I would trust this vendor, but I need to design this top thinner banner that will go along the top of my tent. And then I also need to design this banner that's gonna go behind at the back of my tent. So I think I'm gonna go for a more neutral off-white color like this. And I wanted to keep it more simple and rustic. But one thing I need to work on tonight is I kind of wanna sketch some desserts out similar to this type of line art, but I wanna sketch the actual desserts that I have and have had on my menu. This gives you a lot more context as to what I'm selling compared to just a really plain banner. So yeah, let's work on that tonight. I've exported what I showed you in Canva. That way I can see how the line art looks next to the thickness of the lines on my logo. I'm just gonna be sketching this on Procreate on my iPad. Ideally, it would be in SVG format, which that just means you can kind of zoom in infinitely and it'll still be clear. But unfortunately, I don't have any apps where you can do vector art on, and Procreate doesn't do that. So whatever you draw, once you zoom it in, it's gonna be a little bit blurry. But yeah, I'm just gonna use the tools I have. Hopefully it'll turn out all right since I'm drawing it on a larger size canvas. I'll give it a shot and show you how I do. It's like an hour or an hour and a half later. This is what I came up with. These are sketches of some of my favorite desserts that have been on my menu. First, this is the ube pound cake. And then we have the matcha gâteau chocolat, Earl Grey madeleines. And lastly, we have a recent dessert that I had done, which I love. And that's the Chinese almond croissant cookie. And I'm thinking about arranging these little sketches, something like this on the banner. Kind of like whimsical vibes. I'm going to leave it like this for now, and then tomorrow I'll probably slightly refine it, put in the order. Hopefully that'll be good enough for a banner. I need to get to bed to go to the office tomorrow, so I will give you an update tomorrow. Good morning! It is now the next day and I spent some time fiddling with the final design and I think I've decided what I'm gonna go with, so let me show you. So this has been my setup. I have a picture here of what my booth looks like. That way I can see how it looks with the banner that I'm thinking about going with. So this is the design we started with. These are the little sketches that I made on the iPad. I just exported them as a PNG and then I trimmed them to size after adding them into Canva. One key point is with this option, align the desserts so that they're perfectly vertical. And then another thing I tried was to move the desserts in this banner to be not completely vertical. And I decided this flows a little bit more naturally. I feel like with the straight lines, it looked a bit more formal, but with it spread out like this, it has a natural flow to it. So I think I'm going with this for the larger banner, but I still had some options for the top banner. This is kind of a plain simple design. Another thing I tried was to add interest with these little sparkle line art, but it's not quite in line with my branding, which I want to be kind of like natural and rustic. So then I came up with another option, which is to keep something on the sides to give it some additional interest. And I just replaced the sparkles with some smaller flower line art. And I think this is good because it keeps kind of the natural rustic branding, but the flowers are still small enough that they don't overpower the main focal point of the design, which is the desserts. So this is going to be the final design I'm going with, and this is how it's gonna look with my tent. Good evening. I just got back from work, did some cleaning and dishes, and now it's time to start on the butter mochi. Because I need to prep a lot of butter mochi for this event, I basically need to use the biggest sheet pan that I have that will fit in my oven, which for me is a 3/4 size sheet pan. And actually last week for an event, I already tried baking butter mochi in this pan, but unfortunately because the edges are curved, it just made it really hard to cut the butter mochi evenly. So this time I tried to look for a pan extender. There's pan extenders that you can use to basically convert all of your sheet pans into brownie style, higher and sharp edged pans, but I wasn't able to find a pan extender that fits for a 3/4 sheet pan. It seems like they usually only come in full size or half sheet size. So let me show you this little contraption I got on Amazon. What I got is this little kind of flexible pan extender. This might even fit a 1/4 sheet pan, but it'll definitely fit a half sheet pan, that's for sure. And I can extend it, and it's pretty much the perfect size for this 3/4 sheet pan. The only downside with this is it is a little bit flimsy, so when I was washing it, I was trying really hard to be careful, but as you can see, it's definitely not the sturdiest. But yeah, if you also have a weird size sheet pan and you can't find a pan extender, you might be able to get something like this. I'll link it down below and we'll try it out this time and see how it goes. So I finally finished lining the pans. Next step is to actually make the batter. Since I'm making 2 3/4 sheet pans of batter, I know already it's not gonna fit in here. I'm gonna have to like split it up into 2 batches. So I got the butter going over here. Come make butter mochi with me. Good evening. It is now 12:45. So I finished baking the butter mochi. It's finally cool enough to cut and store. So I'm doing that right now. I think in the end, the pan extender actually worked pretty well. It was kind of time consuming folding the parchment so that it would fit perfectly, but I feel like the edges of the butter mochi are at least better than when there's rounded edges. So now I just need to finish cutting all of this butter mochi and then store it all in the freezer so that I can toast it again the morning of the event. So let's do that together. is now Sunday night. It's 8 p.m. already. Let me fill you in a little while I prep the next batch of ube butter mochi. Originally, my plan was actually to make the ube butter mochi on Wednesday night. That way we can drive back to my parents' house for Mother's Day on Thursday night. But then after baking the Hawaiian butter mochi on Wednesday, I realized that I actually didn't have enough ingredients to make the ube butter mochi. Because I already did not have enough ingredients, I decided we should just drive back Wednesday night instead. That way I get another day with my family. But that also means that today when we drive back, we had to stop by Costco. And now tonight I have to do the ube butter mochi since I didn't get it done last week. And my weekdays this week are pretty packed. So yeah, that's what I am working on now. To be very, very honest, I am feeling pretty tired. Another reason why I wanted to go back to my parents' place this weekend is number one, because it's Mother's Day, and number two, because I realized I am in dire need of a new profile picture update, and I really want to update it to be a photo of me baking. I realized the best place to do a little baking photo shoot would actually be the rose garden that we planted during the pandemic in my parents' backyard. So I thought, why not just kill two birds with one stone? Why don't I bake a cake and then take photos of the decoration in front of the little rose garden that we have? So that ended up being the plan. As usual though, that took longer than I had hoped. I was up pretty late at night yesterday, and then this morning I got up at 7 a.m. I had to finish doing some of the details and then actually finish decorating the cake outside. And by the time we were done, it was like 10 or 10:30. And then after we got the photos, we packed up everything and then we drove back here. First stop we did was Costco, and then we got home and now it's time for ube butter mochi. So it's been a little bit of a rough day. Oh, and also something really fun is that this weekend, the cake that I made was actually my first ever attempt to make a diabetic friendly cake. And that's because my dad has diabetes. So he's always asking me to try to make things that are delicious, like cakes and cookies that don't spike his blood sugar. So this time I brought back the sugar substitutes that I have at home to try and use those to make a cake. So that was very interesting. It was my first time making a sugar-free and completely flour-free cake, and I think it went pretty well. One funny thing is I actually used something called monk fruit extract as a sweetener to replace the sugar, and I am not a big fan of that. It has like a very distinct flavor, and then it also, when you eat sugar, as soon as you kind of like put it in your mouth, you immediately taste the sweetness, right? But with monk fruit extract, it's really weird because you will put it in your mouth and then only like 2 seconds later does sweetness start to kick in. And yeah, I definitely feel like it's a little bit too different of an experience compared to sugar. I'm definitely gonna try another sweetener next time. If you are watching and you have any sugar substitute recommendations, I would love to hear. So yeah, I spent all weekend working on that, and now I'm back here working on this ube butter mochi, and I just really want to get to bed early today if I can. So let's see if I can do that. Honestly, it's moments like these where I kind of wish my old life when you could just take a break and, you know, you drive 4 hours, had a rough day, just come home and relax. Your hobby's your hobby. You don't have to commit to actually doing anything. But yeah, I mean, just don't give up and we'll get through it, right? Someday we'll get to take a break whenever we want to, right? So just gotta work hard till we get to that day. It is 11:40 and I have finally finished portioning and storing up the ube butter mochi. Hello, it is now Monday after work around 7 p.m. and I just finished cleaning up a bit and making some more space in the freezer because that's how I managed to bake everything and keep them fresh for my events. Today the goal is to bake the brownie cookie croissants. So taking out the croissants to thaw, and next step is I need to actually scale up the brownie croissant cookie dough recipe so that I can fill 16 croissants with it. So I'm gonna be working on that, and then it'll be time to prep the batter. So yeah, let's go. Here's my croissant prepping station. 18 croissants. I will slice them in half here and then place them as I go. croissants are glazed and ready to go, and I have the other batch going in the oven. Good evening. It is now the Thursday before the event. I just finished dinner, and tonight what I need to get done is printing out all of the thank you cards that I give with each purchase. And then I also need to update my item labels for some new items that I'm selling this time. And I also need to print out all of the little item stickers that will go on each of my pre-packaged baked goods, and also cut all of those out. And then also, I don't know if I should do it today or tomorrow, but I also need to post that I'm actually even selling at this event on my Instagram. I'm hesitating because whether or not it's gonna be moved due to rain would be announced tomorrow. And it's crazy because last time it rained, so I don't know why I was really thinking, what are the chances it's gonna rain again? But when I was looking at the weather on Monday, I realized it was raining all week into Sunday. And for the last few days, every time I check, every single day is raining except Sunday. So I feel like the rain could start to creep up on Sunday, and the organizers might choose to move the event to the rain date, since that's what happened last year. But yeah, the rain definitely is stressing me out a little, just not knowing if the event's gonna happen this week or if it's next week. And that's also the thing. Last time it rained, it was really sad because they would announce if the event was moved the day before, and the rain just kept moving further and further into the day. It ended up raining for like half of the 6-hour event, and it was like pouring rain. So it really affected the turnout, and the organizers ended up giving a discount to all the vendors who were there last time to the spring event. Honestly, I probably should not have taken this on, but it was definitely partially knowing that I have like a little bit of a sale on the vendor fee, and then thinking, of course it's not gonna rain again, so I guess we will just have to see about that. But yes, so now I need to go ahead and prep everything that I need to print in Canva, have that exported, print that out, and then I will need to hand cut all of the items. So yeah, I'll take you with me. Right, I finished printing everything out. This is like 150 item labels, and then I also have 100 of these thank you cards to slice out. Honestly, these stacks are looking much thicker than I had envisioned. I think I'll cut for 30 minutes and then maybe I can finish the rest tomorrow. I have been printing these out myself. I think the benefit is that I'm free to change the menu whenever I want, and I don't have to deal with having to purchase or feel bad about tossing any labels if I end up changing the menu, because I'm basically free to print however many item labels I need. The only downside, of course, you have to cut them all yourself, and definitely had to reprint stuff sometimes because there's random small nuances between these printing apps. I'm not planning on doing events too frequently, so I think it's probably worth it for now, but let's get cutting because we got a lot to do. It hasn't even been 15 minutes and I already cut out 100 thank you cards. And I even messed up one and printed out 3 more pages and cut them all out. So cutting these things out is actually pretty fast. Same with all of the labels. It took me around like 20 or 25 minutes last night. The only downside is that because you're working with such weird dimensions, every cut is like a different dimension. If you're even 0.25 inches off, then you basically have to reprint it and redo it. But now all these labels are good to go. This is gonna be the final post for the event. What I usually do is start by scrolling through some of the templates for inspiration, and then a lot of the templates I think are pro, so if it's a pro one that I like, then I'll just try to recreate it because I don't have Canva Pro right now. This was first version to consider, second version to consider, but I ended up going with this third version where I made the event name in caps to make it pop a little bit more, and then made the font for the details a little bit smaller. I mean, I definitely don't have a degree in design, but I think it's good enough for now. It is now Saturday, about 1:30. I just put the first batch of black sesame brownies in the oven. So now I'm gonna eat a quick lunch for a break while I wait for those to bake. Today we have healthy takeout. I wanna do something fun and talk about my predictions for tomorrow's event because I know tomorrow I definitely won't have time to sit down and chat. So for tomorrow's event, there's supposed to be 38,000 people. I think it's not gonna rain anymore, so that's a good sign. But then another thing is I don't think my new tent banners are gonna come in time. There's a little bit of an issue with the final proof, so I kind of doubt it's gonna come today. But I definitely feel like without those banners, I think my booth is definitely not gonna pop as much. That will probably impact the results that I would predict. Like I wouldn't predict it to be that much better than a usual event I've been to. We have estimated that out of 38,000 people, and keep in mind there's around 300 vendors, so it's a huge event. Roughly 3% of that 38,000 over the course of the 6-hour event will come to the table. So that's 800 people. And then out of that, maybe like 30% would purchase something. So that would be 240 people. And then if the average order size is around like 1.5 items, that means I should ideally prep 360 items. And let's see, what do I have right now? Partly because I made the size of my items a little bigger. They are now like 30% larger than they were before. So I knew from the get-go there's no way I could make like 360 items. I also feel like it's not a good idea to do that because last time it rained and I had literally so much extra, so better to err more on the safe side this time. So I plan to prep 150 items out of the 360 that we estimated. Tomorrow it's gonna be partly sunny. So if I prep 150 items, and we were saying people usually purchase around 1.5 items average, 100 people would have to just stop by and get something. 6-hour event, 100 people. Okay, my prediction is that I am not going to completely sell out. There's gonna be around 20 items left over. I mean, it's not ideal, but I could do too good to go to give it away. But anyways, we shall see. That is my estimate for tomorrow. I'll just have to check if that comes true. I'm gonna finish up lunch, make the second batch of black sesame brownies. I need to let those cool completely, package them, and then today I also have to do some pre-event prep, which I will share with you. So I finished prepping my Square app for tomorrow, making sure I've added all the items that I'm gonna be selling so that I don't have to stress out car ride there to try to get everything on there. I'm also charging the Square contactless payment little device. I need to charge all my cameras today and also need to charge my iPad because I use that to take my payments. And I think besides that, I need to start bringing things to the car because for tomorrow's event, we have to bring our own table, our own tent weights, and then everything else. And I think the brownies are cool enough, so I'm gonna portion them and start packing them today. Good morning. It is Sunday, 7:20 a.m. This morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. to get started on toasting everything. All of the different butter mochis need to be toasted, and then also the Chinese almond croissants and the brownie croissants all need to be toasted on the morning of the event to make sure they're the perfect texture. So, woke up at 4 to do that. I think everything has been going to plan pretty much. Took a little bit longer to toast the croissants because I realized I only have 3 large pans. I had had to do a couple rounds of toasting the croissants on the smaller sheet pans. So now we're just starting to pack up everything. I think we just need to go to City Hall to pick up the space assignments and parking passes before 9:30. So I think we're gonna make it. Yeah, I'll check back in later. All right, so this is the final setup. We have the croissants here. We have the butter mochis and brownies, and then we have some cookies as well. And then there's the sign. This is the non-updated side with stuff that I don't have, but this is a side that I finished yesterday. So I don't have any banner, but it's also like super windy today, so maybe that's a good thing, honestly, because then my tent would really blow away. Like, it's so windy, we have to like add a chair there to try to keep the tent from moving. This is the second time I'm trying this as well. I took some of the items out of their packaging so that it looks a little bit nicer and a little bit more eye-catching than just seeing like a bunch of plastic. And then we have the samples of the excess butter mochi and brownies. That's it. And this is how it looks behind the tent. I have all the items organized by type, and then I have some bags there. We will see how much I can sell. I honestly don't know. It is 5:50 and we are officially sold out. We just sold the last almond cookie croissant as well. So I think this display looks really good because even though you have to leave one item out, people will still come up and are open to buying things if you have like a full display versus if you only have one item here. Here's what it looks like behind the table. All empty containers. Yay! So crazy. Hello, we are now back home. It's just past 7 and I want to do a quick recap of the event. Honestly, I was not expecting to sell out. I feel like every event we've done like last year, except for like the first event, I think I've always just way overestimated how many items to prepare. There's always so much left over. So I really feel like even this morning looking at how many items I had packaged, it was definitely feeling like, oh no, not again. I can't sell this much. I must be crazy. And so it's honestly so mind-blowing. I'm so happy that for once, I guess, after you make enough mistakes, you can start to get it right. That was really amazing. Another thing is we were like super lucky with the weather this time. Unfortunately, it was pretty windy, but at least it wasn't raining, which I feel like turnout isn't impacted that much if it's just a little bit windy. So super grateful for that. I definitely feel a sense of accomplishing, the next level or facing your fears and succeeding. Another funny story is during the event, the health inspector came to my tent and she was checking off everything. Everything looked good. And then she gave me the little like health certificate and I was just chatting with her for fun. I wanted to buy a butter mochi and a s'more cookie. And she mentioned that you wouldn't expect, but being a health inspector, you actually don't have an appetite after inspecting people's tents. She told me that already in the morning, 2 vendors got dismissed. And she said the craziest thing. One vendor, they had like a kebab stand where you roll the kebabs in sugar. And then she said she saw him literally lick the kebab and then put it on the grill like multiple times. And then I was asking her like, oh, you just so happened to pass by and they were doing that? And then she said, no, she announced she's a health inspector and then they did it in front of her twice. So that's pretty crazy. I guess as long as you're at least trying to follow the rules, you're probably better off than some of the other vendors out there that they're trying to inspect. So that was pretty interesting. Overall, I'll be honest, without the new tent banners that I had ordered that didn't come in time, still similar to last year where when you're walking by, I feel like honestly, it's not super eye-catching. But I do think the little folding sign actually made a huge difference. A lot of people did actually walk straight to my tent and ask for the items that I mentioned on the tent. For example, people came up to me and asked, what's a cookie croissant? So I think having that little chalkboard sign definitely did still help even without the tent banners. Another thing that worked out really well this time is this new display that I'm trying, which is basically you kind of sacrifice one of each of your items for display. And the key point is that you have have to unwrap it from the plastic, and it basically just has to be like a sacrificial item. But that is a few things. Number one, it makes your product seem way more approachable. For example, when you're looking from afar and you just see plastic wrapped items on a table, it's not gonna feel the same as seeing like a beautifully displayed table with plated desserts on it. Another great thing is that when you start to sell out of certain items, if it was packaged, then obviously once everything is sold out, you're not gonna even have a display for that item. What ends up happening is if you only have 1 or 2 items left, people won't even come to your stall anymore because it just looks so sparse and it doesn't look like you're selling much at all. So I think that's another reason why it's great just to have sample items out. And then the third reason is if you don't have your actual packaged goods out on the table, then you'll be less susceptible to theft. Because a previous event I had done, it was when I still just put all my packaged goods on the table, and someone did actually come by and steal something when I wasn't looking. I could hear the plastic rustle, but then I didn't realize that they had taken something because they had bought one other thing. But this time, the same people came by that stole the first time. But you know, if you don't have packaged goods on the table, there's nothing to steal. Like, they're not gonna just grab only brownie you have on your plate. That's just out in the open. So, you know, that's another plus too. I would recommend trying that if you don't do that already for your table display as well. But yeah, it's time to take a quick break because I've been standing since we got to the event, since 9:30 until 6:30. I feel like mentally I'm not that tired, but definitely starting to feel the physical strain. Halfway, I think my back already started to hurt a bit and my legs are kind of sore right now. So we'll take a quick break and then we shall look at the results of how much I sold today. All right, it's the moment of truth. I guess that we made $850 in sales. That's a lot. I've never made that much in sales, but we sold 120 to 150 items maybe. 850 is my final guess. Joe's guess is 1050. Oh, I'm scared. All right. Is it today?
Whoa!
Oh my God. Wow, and I got tips. Thank you so much. All right, the final total is $1,262. I've never seen so much money on this report in my life. Oh my God. Maybe it was worth the pain and suffering. Maybe because I suffered so much last time. It's coming back around. So in the end, I sold a total of 162 items, which came out to a total of $1,214 in sales. The vendor fee was $300, so it was pretty hefty as well, but I mean, that's a crazy amount of sales. That's definitely by far more than double the most sales I've ever had. So I would say that event was a huge success this time. Would I do it again? I guess we will have to see because it's so risky. You either make all this stuff and you sell everything, or you make all this stuff and you sell nothing and it's raining all day, everything is wet. It's like a really rough time. So I don't know if I would do it again. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me prep for this event, go through the whole event and seeing the results. If you like this type of video, let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!